So welcome everyone to A Course in Miracles Satsang. Just to talk about truth, just a pointing, just a showing. Truth has no words, it's an experience. The truth is just your awareness of oneness with God and everything, as everything is God. It's just coming to know your true self, which is not a character, not a body, not a personality. This is coming to know the essence of your true self, which is just this perfect love. So God being love is what I am. So a satsang is really just, if you listen to anyone talking that has sort of experienced the love of God and being one with God, being one with this infinite, expansive, eternal love, you know, it's really hard to point to it with words. It's an experience. So what Jesus does is he gets us to undo the blocks to that experience, because that is our true home, which is just this playfulness, this joyfulness of God's love. It's really like, that's where it says become like little children, because little children, they don't generally judge. So if you can imagine, you know, white-skinned children playing with dark-skinned children, blonde hair, black hair, blue eyes, whatever, red hair, they don't have at that stage a concept. They haven't put a meaning on hair colour, skin colour, eye colour, body shapes. They're really just seeing clearly. Now, when I say that, we all come here as egos, so we all have something to transcend each lifetime we come back. So there's always an argument against what I'm saying here, but this is just really a pointer for us to really understand that if we think about ourselves, when you're a child, if you ever had a period of time, and not all our childhoods are wonderful, but if you've ever had any experience where you've just found yourself playing and enjoying, and just you're free, your mind is free of any thoughts of what will they eat for dinner, you know, what will the president do today, what will coronavirus do today, you know, this is sort of a way to look at to understand that this is the mind. This is a way to look at the mind in which we should live. The experience of, the reason why he says become like little children is, he says, it's basically not to concern ourselves with anything in the world. Really not to, you know, that lesson, I lose the world from all I thought it was. So I'm losing the world from all the meanings, all the ideas. He says we have to first of all look at the world in terms of not to gloss over it, to really see it for what it is. We have to see that it's not the heaven that we thought. Sorry, I'm just going. Joan, are you able to mute your microphone? And Liz, are you able to mute as well? Thank you. So when he asks us to become like little children, if it's a nice thing just to think about when you're a child, you just played. You just went about your day. Now, having said that, being adults, we have to organise shopping, to cook meals, and when we're children, generally that's all taken care of. We don't have to think about those things. But what I'm saying is it should be effortless. That should be the effortlessness of when we're like a child, when we were just playing. We didn't concern, we didn't worry about would there be food on the table tonight. We didn't worry about getting sick or dying. We didn't worry about anything. So I'm just really trying to get you to think about a time when you're a child where you had no concerns, no worries. And that's what he's pointing to when he says, become like little children. He's sort of saying, move into that mind where you let go of worrying about anything, worrying about getting sick, worrying about dying. Just really moving into that state of mind where it's just effortless joy. So when you're a child and you see a worm or a butterfly or a bird, you don't really know what it is. So you have that sort of mind of wonder. I just want to say welcome to Mike, Mary Lou, Penelope, I think, I'm not sure I welcomed you, Liz, Marino, Maria, George, I think that's George, Nikki, Kevin, George Prentice, Alison, Airwater, Robin, Rachel, Susan, Jamuna. Not sure, but I welcomed everyone. And if I've missed you out, welcome. So one thing I noticed when I'm using the word I when I talk, but it's not really, and language is really difficult after you have a really big shift in your mind, because there's really no I left, but you talk about I. And for a while, after I had the awakening as such, or the ego dropped away, I found language really difficult because I kept referring back to an I, but there didn't seem to be an I here. I seemed to be merged with everything. It was like I was in everything. The little me that had felt separate and in a body, even though there was still an experience of activating the body, I felt like I was everything, everywhere. I felt I was all. I was the bird, I was the lamp, I was the sky, I was the leaves, I was the book. I just felt I was everywhere. And I was one with everything. Like it was all me. It was all, and then it was all God. So it was like me and God. We were all. We were everything. There wasn't anything. So there's sort of like, it's like, it had nothing to do with the eyes. The eyes just look at things. It's perception that gets changed. Our perception is the interpreter, the meanings we give everything we see. That's perception. So the eyes just look. But we think perception is actually what we look at. But it's not. The eyes just see images. That's all they do, is they see images. That's what eyes do. They just look at things and see it as an image. And then there's something that goes on, and that is perception. And that is what interprets the images and the sounds it hears. So perception is like an interpretation of what I'm seeing. So that's why I have to look at the meanings I give everything, because in that way I can start to become aware of what I, as the ego, have given everything. Well, I just want to sort of come back to this, become like little children, is that as children, we really don't know what anything is. We don't know what a worm is, what a bird or a snail. We haven't had anything told to us too much. We might put a worm in our mouth and our mother might come up and say, no, don't do that. So I'm not saying that you'll get to the stage where you won't know what to do with anything. You're not going to be, putting worms in your mouth or something like that. But what happens is, for me, I started to look at everything really freshly. I started to notice like little bugs. I remember I did a little video. I was sitting out the back of the house that we lived in before we were here. And I looked down, and I don't know in America whether you have these little thing called slaters. They're little grey bugs. And he was just walking around at my feet, and I became entranced with him. I knew that was me. I knew that I wasn't separate to that little bug. I could feel myself one with him, one with the concrete, one with the chair. So I know this is not really talked about too much in the course. There are pointings to it. It says I'm going to see the holiness of everything. But it's, whenever I spoke about this sort of thing, I'd get a lot of messages saying that I'm mixing up the course and I'm teaching that the things in the world are real and have a life and that they have no life. So I started to stop talking about it because I thought, well, I don't want to mislead anyone. But I couldn't help what I was experiencing, right? And the course doesn't really talk too much about what your experience is going to be like after you awaken. So I had to just, I shared a little bit here and there, and it didn't matter how many times I shared. I would get private messages or people on my post saying I'm mixing up levels, and it still continues to today. And I realised that when I was studying the course, I kept trying to think about using my mind to try to imagine what it would be like. Just imagining, different scenarios. And what I came to see was when my mind went through the transformation, that it wasn't everything got changed in that moment. And what I experienced, he's pointing to in the course, but when you're reading it from a mind that hasn't had that experience, you're really trying to fathom it out, or with it's not so much the ego mind, but it's just the mind that doesn't really know what it's pointing to or the experience. It's like, so for example, if someone tried to tell you what falling in love with, and I know this is specialness, so I'm just going to use this as an example. So if you're a 5-year-old child and someone says to you, I'm experiencing this, these butterflies, falling in love. And a child would say, well, what does it feel like? And you would say, well, it feels like, butterflies in my stomach. I feel lightheaded. So say you were trying to point point to it. You can't really explain it in words, because that feeling, that experience is an experience, and until you've experienced it, it can be only guessed at. So as a 5-year-old child listening to, say, an adult talking about what it's like to fall in love, they would say, oh, butterflies in the stomach, how would that feel? So they might try to imagine some actual butterflies in their stomach, you know, so you're trying to guess at the experience. And that's what we do. That's what I did too. So what we come to see, and a few people have written about on the Facebook Zoom to Miracles page, about their experiences and some of the things that you've experienced in this group or in the week throughout. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only teacher that you're listening to, and you know, you're doing your lessons and you're doing the best you can with forgiveness, the practice of forgiveness. So we're going to have these little experiences, whether you call them mystical experiences or some realization, some deeper seeing. So this is the journey back to the mind that we never left. So what we're doing is we've blocked that mind out of our awareness. So it's still there. That is still all there it's still in our mind, right? So it's like a doorway is closed to that experience, and we're going back to it. So when you get back to that experience of love, of God's love, you're going to find it pointed to in the Course many times, but as I said, there's really no way to use words to point to it. And that's why in the last third of the lessons, he says we're not going to use many words now, because there's no words in that experience. So he uses a lot of words in his Course, but really truth has no words. It's just an experience of God, which is, for me, the word God completely changed in that moment of awakening. I experienced this absolute all-encompassing love, much bigger than I ever thought, this infinite, eternal, vast love. My mind just went out into just this amazing, beautiful love that was so pure and so divine, and I felt joined with it. I felt like I was it, and I was playing in it, and there was just so much happiness and joy in that love. And I realized that that was what God was. So it really was like in that final undoing, there must have still been some little concept in my mind about God being some male thing because of the conditioning in my mind. And I came to see that God was in everything because God was in my mind. So it's like, and that's just, it's everywhere, because the mind that's in the infinite love sees what it's interpreting or finding in the world, in the images the eyes see. The interpretation is now true perception. So when you're an ego, the images that you look upon are the perception, the interpretation that you're putting on is separation. They're not separate or united as such. It's the interpretation that the filter. So in other words, when we look at the images, it's the ego that says this is what it means. And we have the ego mind, and it interprets everything about the world and everything about ourselves through the basis of the idea of separation. It's a belief in separation. The idea is that everything is separate, and its whole basis of seeing, it looks at everything here, and its whole interpretation is always separation. It's always, every thought that the ego brings into our mind has at its base that I am separate to everything. And that all has to be undone. Everything, all the belief in separation has to be completely undone. And therefore, the mind that interprets what it sees now is the mind of God, the mind of love, the mind of infinite, vast, eternal love, or looks at the images and says that's eternal love, because it's that nothing is really has any meaning. It's just light and dark and colours. It doesn't have any meaning. The images, we see the sounds out of bodies and sounds out of mouths and things, movements bodies do. They, in truth, they have no meaning at all. But when we're in the mind of God, we're in the mind of infinite love. That's what's interpreting. So it's seeing. So that's what I came to see when I saw the little bug and when I saw the trees and the sky and the buildings and the people. I just said it's all love, because the mind has shifted into its interpretation that it's love. And because love has no opposite, you're living in a mind that is just love. And your experience is you can't fathom that there's an opposite, because you're in that mind that doesn't interpret anything as being separate or different. It's you're looking at everything completely differently. So when he says, above all else, I want to see this differently, we eventually come to see everything differently in terms of different to how the ego sees it. And then the mind, because the mind has changed. So this is the whole course, is a course in miracles. I'm doing a course in changing my perception. A miracle is a change in perception. I'll answer that in a minute, Joan. So a course in miracles, it's a course in my everyday. I'm on a course, I'm doing a course with Jesus to change my perception about everything. That's my course. So when I wake up in the morning to when I go to bed at night, and even during the night, I'm saying I'm on your course. So when I go to do a course, say on bookkeeping, I go to a place and I get a teacher and he teaches me how to do bookkeeping. But this course I'm doing 24/7. So I wake up in the morning and I say, okay, Jesus, Holy Spirit, today I'm on your course. Change my perception of everything. I'm seeing separation. My perception is in the egos. It's seeing separation. It's interpreting everything as separate. I want to see everything as you do. I want to have unified perception. Now, if you go to the instructions on the lessons, the first instructions, you'll see in that section, he says we're working towards unified perception. In other words, a perception that sees everything unified, joined. That's one of the things I saw. Everything was joined in love. So when you're seeing everything as love, it's all joined in love. But it's the images haven't changed. I still see the same trees, the same cars, the same houses, but the interpretation, the perception, the filter that I'm using is is love, is infinite love. They're saying everything is infinite love. It's all a big soup of love. So you could say, so actually I'll just go to the messages now on the chat. Okay, so Joan has said, how do you undo separation, forgiveness? When you see a mouse or water bug in your home and you see love, how do you get them out of your home? So I usually just put the bugs out of the house. I'll just catch them or get Kevin to catch them, put them out. Or they can stay. I've got these little critters everywhere down here. We've got ants and things like that, but I usually play little games with them. They can live with me. They can stay. And Jamina says, aloha. So let's say one gets a message from what appears as the outside world that you are a problem. How does one forgive this or join with this in love and in atonement for the healing for all? Okay, so if someone says to you that you are a problem, remember, I'll just get to that other question, George, in a minute. I'll just focus on this Jamina's question. So if I was in a group on Facebook and someone said to me, you're a problem, just let me get what you said, the word that you are a problem. What I would say to myself is they have given a meaning to something I have said or done. Their mind has given it a meaning. It's not personal. Nothing is personal here, right? Nothing. You cannot see anyone here. You're giving everything the meaning it happens, and so do they. We all do. We're in the ego split off part of our mind. So if someone looks at me, now you might have seen someone on Facebook about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago said, you're mixing up levels, Kate, blah, 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 blah. As soon as someone says that, I know that they've given a meaning to something I'm saying, right? They've put a meaning on it, right? Not my business, because the Holy Spirit will do it, it will use it. And maybe he or she has to see that. That's part of their journey. So I've just been guided by the Holy Spirit and Jesus to share about what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, no matter what anyone says. And I do. But as I said, I see and I get lots of messages and things. But also the people, the minds that have said these things to me have later come back and, had little chats with me about difficulties they're having, and have sought some sort of counsel. And the same one that wrote that came back a few days later on another post and said, this helped me greatly. So I don't take anything personally because I understand the truth. What you're saying as any interpretation you're putting on this image or any other images on the screen or any words that come out of my mouth are all in your mind. They're nowhere else. Any meaning you give anything is in your mind. It's not on the thing. Like this hair and these glasses and this top, it has no meaning. It's literally meaningless. My words out of my mouth. Now, the one thing about, I do feel like the Holy Spirit speaks through me, right? Because I definitely get really strong emphasis on things to say. But if I was in the ego and I was speaking ego, All you need to know is when someone speaks from the ego to you, just tell yourself they're putting a meaning on something. And I do it too. I'm giving a meaning to what they're saying. So the ego is meeting the ego. So someone says to you, you're a problem in this group, in this organisation, in this world, whatever. You're a problem. And you can, if you can hold yourself, forgiveness is just looking and judging not holding any personalisation to that. Just saying to yourself, wow, look what meaning they put on things I said or did. That has nothing to do with me, what they've given a meaning to. And I cannot change the meaning they've given it. You cannot change it. Believe me, it's better to just say, I can't change it, because the minute you try to say, oh, you've given a meaning to this, that, and the other, don't do that. That's a defense. Just notice that they've given a meaning to it. And notice, and you might notice something's arising in your mind to defend, something's arising to feel unfairly treated. Just notice, really quieten yourself and just watch the ego rise to defend itself. It's going to say, this is unfair. So your job is to notice the ego wanting to rise in you. Now, they haven't done that. They haven't noticed the ego rising to judge you. Your job, our job, is to notice for ourselves, to be really vigilant, to watch it. Now, the ego will rise and will have come up with that story. So it starts to come in and offer you the plate of judgment. Hey, do you want this little one that says you're unfairly treated? Here, bite this, eat this. Okay. The next one is, yeah, this group sucks. Tell them to get effed, blah, blah, blah. This is the next thing I'm going to tell you. So, close down Facebook and leave the Course in Miracles because it never works and it's all crap. And, so it's going to offer you some hors d'oeuvres. Here's some food to eat. Here's some thoughts. Here's some judgment thoughts. So just really, when you get anyone really from the ego seemingly an attack, right? Because there's never an attack. You can't be attacked unless the thoughts arise. So you'll start to really get a noticing. When you say, isn't it our job to forgive others who are giving meaning to what we're doing? That's exactly what we're doing here. When we don't respond, that's forgiveness, right? This is what the process I'm saying. This is how we forgive. Forgiveness is looking and judging not. In other words, I don't judge what's coming out of that person's mouth. I don't give it any meaning. That's what I do. That's what forgiveness is to judge not. So I watch the words. I watch them say, you're a problem in this group. You have to stop doing this. You have to stop doing that. And once you know that that's all within them, they've given something a meaning. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with you. That mind was going to find is probably going to be doing that everywhere. Because what happens is we can only change our own mind. It's the only mind we can change. But having said that, we can, through practicing forgiveness, help others choose it too. Okay, but we can't make them choose forgiveness. It's not, Jesus is not telling us to point out our brother's errors and say, hey, you gave that a meaning, you need to forgive that, you need to do forgiveness. That's not what he's telling us. He says our one thing that we need to do is accept the atonement for ourselves. So the minute someone says you're a problem and we're upset with you and you might need to, leave a group or whatever, we we let go, we seriously let go, we just get quiet and watch the thoughts, the ego thoughts start to arise, because they do, and watch them. Watch those thoughts of feeling attacked, feeling unfairly treated. And this is how we have to get into noticing the ego, getting into looking, noticing, oh yes, here's the ego coming in with its story. That's our job. That's what we have to do. Notice the ego. Notice what our brother has said. Says it doesn't mean anything, has no effect on me. He gets affected by his thoughts. I get affected by mine. So if I'm not upset by what he says and I remain in peace, I get the experience of peace. So that's why I need to really watch the ego. Now, if the ego comes in with, oh, I'm unfairly treated, this is not fair, I should be included in this group, and this is terrible, and more and more and more, and I am swamped by that, me as the decision maker, I haven't been able to notice the ego, what the ego is offering me, and I'm sort of a bit mindless, and all those thoughts come over and that whole story comes over and swamps me, and I'm swamped by the ego, right? That's when you need to sit down quietly when you can and say, okay, Holy Spirit, I'm swamped by the ego. I'm literally, overwhelmed with this feeling of being unfairly treated. And then what I do is I get my unfair treatment, and I give it over to the Holy Spirit. I say, Holy Spirit, you have this whole story of unfair treatment, of being attacked. So we don't ignore it. We look at it and we say, okay, like in RFD where he says the quick restorative and the long restorative. So you'll start to notice some things you can see. Oh, here comes the ego with its story, and you'll notice it straight away. Or you're just not going to notice it. It comes in and it swamps you, and so you have to do the long restorative now. Holy Spirit, here you go. I give this to you. I want to be free of it. I don't want to have this story of unfair treatment. Help me see this differently. You bring me another perception in. Now, in that quietness, when you ask for it, you've given over, so you've released it, you've let it go, you've let go of the story, you've given it over, you don't have it anymore. You'll probably feel this sense of peace, this little bit more peace. And then when you've asked, help me see this differently, bring me another perception. I want the miracle of a different perception. So rather than feeling upset, I can be at peace. So I might sit, and then when I'm sitting quietly, asking Holy Spirit, I want another way to see this. Above all else, I want to see this situation differently. And remain peace, remain quiet. I might get a remembering that I am spirit. I'm something that can't be unfairly treated. That somebody saying something to me can't attack who I am. That mind put a meaning on something I said or did. And I might just also look and say, what am I saying and doing in this group? Just look at what, if you're in any course groups or in any Facebook groups, just say, when I write something or say something or make a video or do anything or read any of anyone's posts, am I putting any meaning on anything there? When I post, where am I coming from? When I put something, when I reply to someone else's post, who am I choosing? Is there any motivation? Okay, so Jamina's saying it's about work, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because I know you can use social media and anything in the world. They're the same things. You'll start to see that you have the same responses to people online, on social media, and people in your life. So one of the things I did was I used social media for the undoing. I just gave the whole, I'm usually just on Facebook. I put videos on YouTube, but Facebook was where when I first started really wanting to undo the ego, I would go into groups, and I think I've shared this many times, where they would really seemingly attack each other and seemingly attack me. And I would really use it. I would use anybody, anything, anyone. So I've used a mixture of really expressing love and appreciation to everyone, wherever they were, writing messages on my posts or in other groups. And I really, if somebody wrote something and I really felt a big trigger, and I did in those days, I really got triggered by things, I'd say, oh, this is wonderful. This is so good. I'm really triggered by this. I must have something to undo, because I'm seeking out all the obstacles so the Holy Spirit can dissolve them. And when he dissolves them, I'm free. So I want to find all the obstacles. I don't want to run away from them. I want to find them, because the Holy Spirit's going to dissolve them. So I would sit there and I'd say, oh, look what this one said to me. And I feel really triggered. Holy Spirit, help me. And he would say, oh, you have a belief in this. You have a belief that somebody shouldn't say that to you. You know, can you allow everything just to be as it is? Can you allow that person to say that? Can you just allow it? Can you just let it be? Does it upset you? So what I saw was he showed me just words on a page. Just if you look at when somebody writes something, if you get triggered on social media by anything, just look at it. It's just symbols on a screen or on your phone. They're little, look at the letters. Say, look at the letter B. It's just a line and a circle. So you're getting upset by a lot of lines and circles. And really, if you have a look, they're pixels on a screen put together to form the lines. His Holy Spirit said, drill right down into it. He actually got me to look at the word on a piece of paper. And he said, this is what you're upset about. Look at the letter. So I looked at the letter. And then he said, now dive deeply. It's just a line and a circle. That's what you're upset about. And then he said, and look further down. It's ink on a page. And it's tiny little dots joined together to make that letter. So that's what you're upset about. Ink on a page, pixels on a screen. So really, you're like, how dare you pixels upset me? That's what he showed me that I was upset with. And that's when you drill down. That's what you're upset with. And that's why he showed me noise out of people's, if I get upset by somebody, that's something someone says, I'm upset with a sound. So these are all ways we can see, oh, look, because we don't see the meaning we're giving it. But that's really what it is. We're giving some meaning to some pixels on a screen put together in line and circles and half circles and little dots all put together. And we're saying these words, these symbols are attacking me. But if it has no meaning, so if you're a little child and you don't know the alphabet, and you looked at that and you went onto social media and say your mother went, oh, this person's really upsetting me, look, and all you saw was squiggles, Yeah, haha, I like that. Look at those squiggles. So this is what you have to see, that they're squiggles, they're symbols, they're lines. There's nothing to upset you. And so what you can see is anything that you think that is saying, you have given a meaning. You've given it all the meaning it has. And this is a really good way to look at social media, look at anything, voice, it sounds out of people's mouths, actions by bodies, bodies moving around, sounds. And you can say, so I become responsible for all the meaning I have. And the reason why I become responsible, I'm 100% responsibility, and taking responsibility for all the meaning you give everything is the way home, because then you can have it changed. So it's not, this is a way of looking at the Course's teachings as a way to be free. And just say, oh, look, I've given that a meaning. Oh, look, you know, I've given rich people meaning. I've given poor people meaning. Look at them. And really, like, if you've got a Course in Miracles friend, some people buddy up with Course in Miracles, or, you know, you might, whoever, just start, when you get together, just say, what meaning do you give that? And then say, oh, this is the meaning I give it. And just really, it's really good to notice, because it's sort of like the starting of seeing all the subtle meanings we give everything. And it is a way to be free. Don't judge yourself for it. Try to stay out of any judgment of any meaning you've given. The Holy Spirit will help you. That's what has to happen. The Holy Spirit has to help you with the meanings. So let me just have another look at what George. Can you give us an example, Cate, how ego sees a house versus love sees a house? Okay, so, all right, so imagine standing outside your own house now, and standing out the front and looking at it. And imagine a friend of yours standing with you that you might know their opinions about different things. And imagine, just look at the house and let all the meanings flow in, what you think about it. You know, old, new, nice, ugly, whatever, all the descriptions that you give it. And then just think about what someone else might say about your house that you know. They might have already said something like, I really love your house, or this is an old house, why don't you do it up? I couldn't stand living here. You know, just think about some of the things that people have said about your house, inside or outside, right? Maybe you want to look at the inside. Just start to look at all the meanings people give things. It's not good or bad, it's just the meaning. You know, it doesn't matter. It really does in a way. What matters is the meaning you give something. Because if that meaning can upset you, and we'll see that later, how that meaning, why Jesus brings that teaching in so quickly in the Course, in his lessons. Now imagine just looking at your house and just say the house is love. It's just love. It's not good or bad. It's just love. Now I don't know whether you'll get to that, but just remove all meanings. Just look at it and just say, actually, it's just a bit of timber, a bit of metal, a bit of paint. You know, if you took that colour or the paint on it and you put it on a piece of paper and you painted it, it's the same paint. If you took a piece of timber out of the house that you live in and you took it out, or you had a piece of timber that was exactly the same and you put it on the ground, would you say, oh, that's beautiful, that's lovely, oh, I love that timber? You know, it's just a piece of wood. It's just a brick a brick is made of mud. If you have a look at how bricks are made, they're made of dust, made of dirt. Remember, Jesus says everything's made of dust and dirt, and you know, it's made of everything's. If you look at a tree, it's had nutrients from the soil and water, and it's made some wood. So everything that we think, it's just all comes from dust. But it's not really the dust, but it helps to undo. It just, you just take what I'm saying in context, so that, because it can help you undo the meanings. So how I see my house is, it's just love. It has no meaning. Everything is love. So how I look at everything is the same. Right? So Joan, isn't it our job to forgive others who are giving meaning to what we are doing? In terms of, we just don't judge them. We just see a call for love, right? So if someone says, you're doing this and you're doing that. So in other words, you know, when someone comes on my post and say, you're doing this and you're doing that, I just bless them. I message that person quite often and just love them. Hi, Nicole.
Oh, hello. Oh, and I'm not muted.
You got to, I think, because you've got two devices on, it's a bit of a background echo. So anything that we get upset about, we've put a meaning on. We have to take full responsibility for, I have put a meaning on this. And then we say, okay, Holy Spirit, I give you this meaning. Give me another meaning, a meaning that brings peace. So that's the miracle. So that's why he says, I'm responsible for sight. I'm responsible for perception. I'm responsible for my perception. In other words, I'm responsible for noticing what the ego perception is and bringing it to the Holy Spirit. I'm responsible, because anytime I'm upset, I've joined the ego. So as Ken Wapnick used to say, I'm responsible for my loss of peace. I'm responsible for joining the ego. I'm not bad for joining it. I just did it. The ego speaks first, and I joined it really quickly. And oh my God, it's so easy to join the ego. It's like, you're not bad for it. We made it, we wanted it, we desired it, we're attracted to it. So we have to choose against it, and it's not always easy, but just keep doing it, and that's it. You just have to you be a happy learner. To say, oops, I joined the ego. Right, Holy Spirit. Just don't beat yourself up for joining the ego. It's the best thing. Just say, look, okay, I did the best I did. Today wasn't too good. I joined the ego lots. I judged lots. I condemned. I felt attacked. Holy Spirit, I didn't bring anything to you today, but tomorrow I'll do it. I'll do a better job. That's what I used to say. I used to sit and speak to the Holy Spirit at night and say, oops, Holy Spirit, I forgot to bring anything to you today. I was totally in the ego. And just have a bit of a laugh about it. And then just say, tomorrow I'll try to be a little bit more mindful. So in that way, you can really have a relationship with the Holy Spirit, right? and be the happy learner. And so you are going to be overwhelmed by the ego. And sometimes you're going to be really good at noticing it. You're going to have days where you're like, oh, and you know, I really notice what the ego, a few people have messaged me and said, you know, I'm noticing the ego giving me the food, or the ego as the prosecutor trying to make a case against my brother. You know? So that's all. These little things are just trying to get us to notice the ego rather than be in it. And if we are overwhelmed with it, the remedy is, Holy Spirit, I give you these thoughts. He says, put them at the feet of the Holy Spirit, or give them to the Holy Spirit, and ask for the correction. Holy Spirit, correct my perception. That's forgiveness. Correct my perception, please. I'm upset. I don't want to feel upset. I want to experience peace. I want the peace of God above all else. Okay, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to think about this. I don't know how to see it. I don't know how to perceive it, but you do. So I'm going to quieten my mind and allow you to fix it and correct my perception. So anytime I'm upset, I'm in a misperception. That's it. And that's really what forgiveness is, choosing the Holy Spirit, to invite the Holy Spirit in to help you. So Susan says, are all thoughts from the ego or Holy Spirit? I understand egoic thoughts are about separation and Holy Spirit thoughts are about love. I am trying to understand where what seems to be neutral thoughts come from, such as I think I should brush my teeth. Okay, so Jesus says there's no neutral thoughts. So they're either Holy Spirit or egoic thoughts. So you might feel that a neutral thought is, I think I should brush my teeth. If it has no feeling of fear, in terms of if you couldn't brush your teeth, if there's no fear, then that's a Holy Spirit thought. We have, like, for example, if you're sitting there now and you're thinking, oh, I feel like getting a glass of water, that's what I would say, is that the Holy Spirit has thoughts that are helpful, that just advise you what you need to do and when you need to do it. It's the Holy Spirit corrects your perception and will just speak to you all day long about what you need to do. So it's just reminding you need to brush your teeth now. You don't have any neutral thoughts in terms of you can only, Jesus says, you can only have Holy Spirit thoughts or ego thoughts. There's no thoughts of Susan's thoughts, Grace's thoughts, Robin's thoughts, or Kate's thoughts. It's not possible to have your own thoughts. The ego pretends to be you. Its whole premise is it's you. And the Holy Spirit's trying to shift your awareness that you're not a separate person in a separate world. You are the love of God. So you're still going to feel answered to the name when people call you, because you're going to use what the ego made, as in the body and the name that you were given. But every part of you is just going to, your mind is going to see that this is a dream world, an illusion, that you made up the whole thing. You're going to get the awareness of that tiny mad idea. I've seen that myself. I've seen where I chose it. I'm not bad for choosing it. There's no guilt. When you see all this stuff, there's absolutely no guilt. It's like just showing someone where you said, look, you just did this, you know. So it's literally like you're just shown this is what you did, and this is the world you made, and you made it up to try and hide from God. Like I've seen it all. I've seen how everything's happening at once. It seems to be on a timeline, but all this is just happening in a tiny ticket time, and it never happened. It's all over. So what happens is, it's called like to begin with, the first year was like, you live in a paradox, you could say. You're holding alternate views in a way. You're holding that the world never happened because you've seen it could never come. It could never be. I'm holding in my mind that everything's happening at once. I'm also holding in my mind that I'm on a timeline and I look at a clock to turn up to a meeting. And I'm also seeing people in the ego and the world, how the world was made by the ego, and that it's a total fabrication, a dream, an illusion. So I'm holding in the same time in my mind, I can hold all of that and not be disturbed by it. And it's just a whole, and to begin with, the first year was like, wow, it's just like a paradox. I'm seeing all these opposing views and holding them in my mind all at the same time. But now I'm very, very used to that. And it's not like, whoa. You know? But to begin with, you're like, oh, I'm seeing a world but I'm not experiencing it as separation. There's such a quietness in your mind. That's the contrast. I couldn't believe how quiet my mind was. It was just unbelievable how quiet my mind was. I'd never experienced such a quiet mind. It was amazing. And then just seeing everything just as love. And then trying to express that and being told, oh, it's wrong. It's like, what can you do? I just had to laugh. I was just laughing, and I just thought they're putting a meaning on something, and it doesn't matter. The thing is, the Holy Spirit's in all our minds. It doesn't matter what anyone says about us or does. It's that the tiny mad idea never happened, but what we're experiencing now seems to be, but we're never here. We're not in a world of separation. We have no individual, we didn't come into a body. We don't have an individual life. And that's when we get onto the fear of God and the fear of death, in the obstacles to peace, if we ever get around to them, you're going to have to cross the bridge of, to me, the fear of death was the biggest block. It was just huge in my mind, the fear of death. But you're taken across it, you're carried across by Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Okay. So you don't have any neutral thoughts, and the Holy Spirit will bring you what to do, when to do it. Brush your teeth now, have a coffee now, have some breakfast, go for a walk, go see this person, ring this person up, join this group, don't join this group, get off now. You know, he's in our minds all the time. He's just going to make life really easy. That's why he says you don't have to think about anything. So the Holy Spirit's just helping you, remind you to brush your teeth, and that's all right. There's no judgment. It's just happy. It's just a happy life. Jamuna, what has been helpful for you, sis, in joining with the Holy Spirit thoughts and seeing everyone as innocent and thinking only loving thoughts? Right, so we're going to do that. Let me check the time. But yeah, we might get on to the... So Airwater says, can you talk about the Holy Spirit? Okay, so what I'm getting to say about the Holy Spirit is that there is a guide in your mind. And in my experience, I could not have led myself out of the ego without this guide. But in the end, I merged with that guide. I became it. But I always like to think, for me, it was really, really helpful to think of the Holy Spirit as not me, something that helps me. So I really just looked at it, talked to the Holy Spirit. I needed help. So I knew that how I was perceiving everything and everyone and all my relationships, I really needed help in changing that. So I didn't know what that new perception would be because I was so stuck in the ego's perception of everything. So the Holy Spirit is part of your mind that will bring the answer in some way. And the hardest thing about what I found doing the Course in Miracles and asking the Holy Spirit was when I was really overwhelmed with the ego, it was really, really hard to hear the Holy Spirit. It was, and that's when I really needed it. So the more overwhelmed I was with the ego and the more upset I was, the less I could hear the Holy Spirit. And I found that really frustrating because I thought, I just can't seem to break through to hear. So what I found really helpful was just opening the course and either applying one of the lessons, or my go-to lesson was I rest in God. So you really don't need to, even if you're so overwhelmed with the ego some days and you really feel that you can't get your mind quiet, even you try to meditate and you can't, you're in so much fear or guilt or whatever. It's so overwhelming that you can just sort of, you can sort of open the course. Or I also encourage everyone, which is what I did, was I made up a little booklet. It was like I just cut pieces of paper or like got a little notepad, and I wrote really small sayings on it, very brief sayings that would help me on those days of really big overwhelm. Egoic overwhelm, lots of fear in my mind. So I had something really easy to read that would help me, and I left it out in my bedroom where I could see it, because when you're in overwhelm, you forget about everything. It's as if you've never heard anything about the course, you never heard a teacher, never joined a group. It's like everything is gone, and you're just fully in the fear. You're actually so overwhelmed with fear. And so I found the most helpful thing was to keep this book, and you might even put the big red, you know, in red texture on the front of it, for days of overwhelm. And just pick it up and put some things that, you know, like I'd put, I rest in God. I'd remind myself, oh, okay, that's what I need to do. And then I would put some other little sayings, and that little saying that I've put up many times on my Facebook post, allow your brother to be where he is. The Holy Spirit is working in his mind as he's working in your mind. Because it would always be, I'd be overwhelmed with feeling I needed to put someone in their place and I needed to say something, and that really helped. No, that's not my job to correct my brother. It's my job to correct my perception, right? So all that all goes out the window. You forget everything on those days. So you have to have like your emergency kit for those days, you know. You have to make something. I had little sayings up on my wall right beside my bed. So the minute I woke up, I looked at it and it reminded me of something. Because the ego is just going to want you to forget about anything to do with forgiveness or undoing it. So I haven't gone through anything to do with the obstacles to peace. The belief the body is valuable for what it offers, but I feel that what I've shared today was pertinent for what, and this can wait. But what I'm feeling to do, I'm just getting guidance that I'm going to write up some questions. So we're going to do a meditation now. But what I want you to do before we join next week, I want you to read through the second obstacle, the belief the body is valuable for what it offers. So if you can read that down to the attraction of pain, it's like 2 pages. Read that a couple of times between now and when we join next week. And on the Zoom to Miracles Facebook page, I'm going to put some questions, and I want you to, during the week, sit quietly, read this section, and then sit quietly and ask yourself. Now, for people watching this video, I'm actually just going to say the questions now. And for future use, these videos could be used in future for anyone that wants to go through this obstacles to peace together. I think you're saying you don't do Facebook. Is that what you're saying, Airwater? Oh, you don't do Facebook. Okay. Okay, if you would like to send me your, actually, I'm going to say the questions here, okay? So maybe write them down, but I will put them up on the Facebook group as well if you don't want to write them down now. But for people that aren't on Facebook, so don't answer these just yet. I want you to read the section and then either answer them during your reading of it or afterwards. Okay. What does the body offer me? So in terms of what do I think I'm getting out of identifying myself as a body? Now I want you to really dive deeply, like spend a bit of time, like quieten your mind before you do these questions, because you want to really go deeply. You be really honest with yourself. You might say, oh, I think I can get pleasure from having sex, or pleasure from eating food, or pleasure of hugging my friends. You know, just look at what does the body offer me. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what you think. What has the body really given me? And the third question, can I see that these things that I've answered in question 1 and 2 are the belief in death? So I was hoping today to really explain out how they join, but I want you to, I will next week, I'm going to go through these questions and I'm going to show you how, though the answer to those first two questions links up to the belief in death if you can't see it already through your own inquiry. And so if I'm really believing that the body is valuable for what it offers, so when I write, what does the body offer me? If I think that I need to see the value that I'm giving the body, then I'm going to see atonement as murder, because the atonement is going to undo the identity as a body. So the ego sees it's the undoing of the body identification as murder. And that's what we were saying last week about, we were talking about your fear of awakening. And so therefore I'm going to see the atonement, which is God's love, as fearful. So we're going to go through that in detail next week in this group. I'm going to really go through it slowly. You really need to go through these really slowly. It's like, you know, drilling down onto why I'm upset by something written on a screen or written on paper. We have to drill down and really see what we're upset about. So we're going to go, the reason why I go through this really slowly is you really want to see what the body is offering you. What does the body offer me? And really see, what do I think this I can get from this body, having this body? What do I think it gives me? And therefore, those things are going to be helpful for you, because you may not have ever done any inquiry about what you think the body offers you. So yeah, so I won't go through any of those. I'll say, so Robin's saying the second question is, what has the body really given me? It's sort of similar to the first question. They're sort of asking the same thing, but you might identify more with one of those questions. But they're really saying, what do I get out of identifying with the body? Can I see these things that I've answered in question 1 and question 2? Are the belief in death, Kate? Did I get them right? Okay, Penelope, before you leave, she just messaged me, just stay on for a few more minutes because we're going to do a meditation and we can hold you if you're struggling today. We'll do one where we hold you in our minds. It might be helpful, all right? So just hang around for a few more minutes. Okay, so George Prentice says pages. So I've got the FIP version here in front of me. It's on page 412. So chapter 19, section 4, the obstacles to peace, and it's number B, the second obstacle, the belief the body is valuable for what it offers. So we're really going to zone in this week. I want you to really think about what am I getting? You don't have to tell the group anything. This is for you. This is your inquiry. It's not about, hey, I'm going to share it with the group and I have to have the right answer if I share it. It's not about that. Forget about that. This is just about you inquiring into, right? So you won't need to share this in the group. It's just for you. Find out these hidden ideas in our mind. He's asking us to look. He actually says, what has the body really given you that justifies your strange belief that in it lies salvation? In other words, I'm valuing this body, that I believe this body is going to bring me the peace of God, bring me enlightenment, salvation, peace of God, love. That's what I'm thinking. The body is, I'm putting the value on the body. I'm saying that I'm scared of the peace of God. I don't want to lose the value of my body. We'll go through that next week, but I just want to highlight that to you, that that's what we're doing. We're trying to get an inquiry. We have to notice these things. We have to dive deeply into what we're holding, what we're valuing, so we can go beyond it. Because how can we go beyond something that we're not aware of? So Penelope has left. Okay. Right. Well, what we're going to do is, even though Penelope has left, we're going to hold Penelope anyway. And she just messaged me privately saying she's just having a bad day. She's very overwhelmed. So let's just start with Penelope. So if we just get quiet, get comfortable. If you want to lie down or sit down, or just find yourself, just get really comfortable. This is a Face of Christ meditation. The face of Christ has to be seen before the memory of God can return. The reason is obvious. Seeing the face of Christ involves perception. So we're going to be using an interpretation. No one can look on knowledge. But the face of Christ is the great symbol of forgiveness. It is salvation. It is the symbol of the real world. Whoever looks on this no longer sees the world. In other words, separation. He is as near to heaven as is possible outside the gate. Yet from this gate, it is no more than just a step inside. It is the final step, and this we leave to God. God's will is all there is. I'm not going to read anymore. Just want you to realise that this meditation, doing this Face of Christ meditation, it's really good to practice it. And as you practice it, you'll get better and better at overlooking all the interpretations that the ego gives to bodies and words, any meaning it puts on anything. We have to be so vigilant. In letting go even the subtlest judgment of our brother. We can't hold on to any judgment. We have to let it all go. Seeing the face of Christ, which is seeing the innocence, seeing the holiness, seeing the beauty, seeing the guiltlessness, is the way that we see ourselves. How we see our brother is see ourselves. So we practice in this meditation, we're focusing on a brother. I don't know why I can hear some noise. Well, everyone seems to be muted. Can anyone hear any background noise? Oh, Laurie, it's all right. I'm just going to mute you. Okay. There you go. So, Holy Spirit, Jesus, we invite you in to our minds. This is the way to see my brother's holiness, is the way to salvation. It is the way to heaven. It is the way to remember my true self. It is the way to bring everyone in and see the truth of everyone and everything. I don't need to understand how it's going to happen. I just need to do it. I just need to try to see the holiness and the innocence. All I need to do is be willing to enter into that. And just, if I shift away from it, I just remind myself, just do the best I can in following the instructions. I don't judge myself how I'm going to do this meditation. I don't concern myself with outcomes. All I do is say I'm willing to do it. I'm just willing to see my brother's innocence, to see the perfect, pure Christ before me. I just hold him in my mind as the beautiful love of God. So let's do Penelope first, even though she's not here with us. If you know what her image looks like, or you don't have to, you can just hold her. I'm not going to put the timer on today. I'm just going to sit quietly and come back when I feel we've spent enough time. Follow my guidance. So let's just hold Penelope's face in our mind. And you can see yourself if you want to give her a hug, or hold your hands around her chin as a dear brother. You can look into her eyes And just feel this love pouring out of you to her. I want to just say, I love you, my dear brother, my dear friend. Let's just be quiet and just focus on her purity and her innocence. Well, if anyone who's struggling today and feeling overwhelmed, would you like to put it in the chat if you can? Or if you can't find the chat, just you can just put your hand up and I'll write your name down. Okay, Robin. Okay, let's do Robin now. So you're welcome to pin Robin's video, which I'm going to do now. So I can really get and look into your eyes, my dear friend, and bless you with my holiness. I love you. I bless you, and I honor you, my beautiful friend. And I see your guiltlessness. I see absolute innocence. I see your divinity. I see you as the love of God. I see your gorgeousness, your loveliness, your perfection. Okay, so that's a little bit of guidance just then coming in. What I'd like to do, is there anyone that feels they would like to bless someone else? So is there anyone that wants to be blessed? Okay, Nicole, so would you put your hand up? Okay, so what I want someone to volunteer to say the things that I was saying just then. It's so powerful when you speak it out loud. Oh, just a moment. Okay, so is anyone feeling that they'd like to just speak out the words, just say those words to Nicole, just like I love you, I bless you, I see the purity of you. Is anyone feeling they'd like to lead that? It's very powerful if you do it. Okay, Robin. So, Robin, if you want to unmute, and I'll pin Nicole's.
Are you talking to me?
Oh no, Robin, the other Robin.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I didn't realise that too. Okay, so let's pin Nicole's video. And Robin, I'll let you speak out the words.
Nicole, I love you. I bless you. I honor you. You are guiltless, sinless, innocent, a gorgeous child of God. You are shining a beautiful light wherever you go. Your holiness blesses everyone you encounter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole, thank you, Robin. Nicole, would you like to pick someone to bless?
Yes,
Just pick
I
any.
would love to. Grace.
Grace, okay.
I love you. You are beautiful. You are innocent and holy. You are forever loved. Nothing but love can come near you. You are pure and perfect. You are light. You are the love of God. You are forever unchangeable, perfect love. You are beautiful light. You are innocent and guiltless. Your worth is established by God, forever pure and loved. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Nicole. I bless you. I love you. I thank you. I love the whole group. I bless the whole group, and I thank you, the whole group. We are all one in the love of God. There is no other. Thank you.
Is anyone else feeling that they would like to bless someone?
Yes, I'd like to bless Susan.
Susan, okay.
Susan, you are the happiest, most loving, abundantly fulfilled, free spirit in this universe. Thank you.
Okay. Is anyone else feeling they would like to receive a blessing or give a blessing? As you give, you receive. George.
Could I receive a blessing?
Yes. Would anyone like to do the blessing? Believe me, it's extremely powerful when you speak to your brother in this way. You really, it's, even if you feel that you feel some nervousness about doing it, I encourage you to try it.
Could I give you a blessing, Kate?
I would love one. Thank you.
I can? Okay, great. Kate, you are the beautiful light. You are innocent and perfect. You are forever pure and loved. You are guiltless. I bless you. I love you. And I thank you from my heart, from the bottom of my heart. Love you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's close our eyes. Thank you, George. It's beautiful. And thank you, everyone. So you will, everything you see in me and say about me, you just received it. If you blessed or received it, you're going to experience everything you say about your brother. You are going to have that experience. You're hearing that about yourself. It's really going to raise yourself up into the mind of God. Remember, the face of Christ has to be seen before the memory of God can return. So we'll do this again next week, and I'll encourage you to do this. I'd like everyone to at least at some stage do this blessing out loud, like George did. Even if you want to write it down first and read it, I really encourage you. You're going to get so much out of saying the words. But let's just do two more. One is going to be, the first one is we're going to hold in our mind right now someone we're having difficulty with. So George and Grace, if you could just mute your microphones there to start with, thank you. Just hold someone, you'll probably already see them in your mind. And I just want you to hold their image in your mind and just bless them with this love. See the innocence of them. Look past anything that you've judged them. Just focus on their holiness, the perfection, the Holy Spirit in them, the love of God, their guiltlessness. And now just bring in the whole group here. Bring everyone. You can see us all sitting at a table, beautiful spotless tablecloth on a beautiful summer's day. We're holding hands, some gentle music. You see Jesus there with us. Just feel his heart opening. Just feel the love really, really exploding out of you for all your brothers. Just feel this really deep joining. We're all joined. This beautiful love of God, holiness. Just let everything go and just be in that garden. Just feel the fun and the joy and the laughter. We're becoming like little children and just enjoying a beautiful summer's day, a gentle breeze. Just feel so happy to see your brother, your brothers. I feel Jesus there with us, that he's just going up to everyone and giving them the biggest hug. He just loves. He's just loving everyone. And just looking in your eyes, looking in each of our eyes, and just saying, you are so perfect. I love you so much. Just feel the love coming from him, coming into you, blessing you with his holiness. And then turning to your brother and just seeing their holiness. Feel this really big smile on your face. Let everything go and just be in that garden. Just let everything else leave your mind. Just be there. Just feel this happiness and this joy and this simple peace. This is the happy dream, the happy world, the happiness. You just feel like your arms are extending right out and just bringing everyone in, like they're huge, and they're just bringing everyone in that garden in. And just feel they're all merging into you, into your heart. Just bring them in. It's like, come in. I love you so much. You're beautiful. Come and rest in my heart with me. This beautiful love. Let us join. And then just feel your arms going really wide and bringing everyone in the whole world, just enveloping them all. Come into my holiness. Come into my love. Rest in me. I've got room for everyone. Bring them in. Come and rest in my beautiful innocence and guiltlessness. Let's join in that. Or you might like to see yourself as the Holy Spirit, invisible love, going around and just kissing everyone on the cheek in the world. All the people at work, all the people on the subway, all the people sleeping in their beds in different parts of the world that are asleep now. All the people doing manual labour, all the mums at home. Everyone everywhere, just see yourself kissing, saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. Just feel this love pouring out to everyone, everywhere. We are this all-encompassing love. That's what we are. Just feel yourself free of the body and just going around and just loving everyone, blessing them. Flying around, not limited by the body. Just holding anyone that's upset. And just see if anyone's upset, you could just feel your arms around them and say, it's okay, I love you. Yeah, we'll be finishing now, Joan. Okay. So we'll finish it now. If you want to continue this, if you feel really joined, as we leave, you can just sit quietly. You can invite Jesus in. You'll just continue whatever the guidance is for you at this stage. Just continue on blessing and loving. Anyone you've got issues with, just bring them to your mind and just bless them. To forget their body, forget their words, forget everything. Just focus on the purity of them. And so I'll do the last blessing to everyone. I love you. I bless you. Honour you. I see only the absolute Christ. Beautiful innocence, the love, the playfulness, the gorgeous love, the light of the world. I see only your beauty. I love you. Thank you for joining today. See you next week. Bye-bye.